This is now the old crankshaft that was installed in the engine. The problem was that the piston pin or the crank pin, the material of the pin was too soft. As you see, the bearing is completely gone and also the material has wear down a lot. This was the main issue because the engine wasn't running right and it was so hard to tune. In here you can also see parts of the bearing. Luckily the cylinder wasn't get damaged, just the piston. That's the piston. It have a few deep marks in it and also the piston ring is stuck in there. Parts of the bearing have damaged the piston, but luckily not the cylinder. So I just have to replace the piston and the ring, of course, and then putting the engine back together and I'm good to go. You can also see the wear on this crank half. It doesn't look too good. And also when you feel the other crankshaft, the bearing isn't that right. And also on this, the bearing doesn't feel so good at all. But not as bad as the middle cylinder. This is now my new crankshaft. It's already finished assembled and aligned. I have tack welded the crank pin in place so the both crank sides doesn't move. It's made out of a harder material than the old one. The hardness is about 45 HRC, so it's more than enough. Unfortunately, I have a little bit more play in here because the new piston pin is made out of a special material. The core of the piston pin is softer than the outside, so just the outside surface is hardened and the piston pin is in diameter 15.995 millimeters. My old ones was 16.02 and now I have 0.02 millimeter more play, but I hope this will be fine. Now I have to assemble the whole engine again. It's lying in pieces under my mini bike. I have to assemble it now and then put it in the bike again, but I won't record it. I think you've seen the engine assemble and disassembling more than enough. And yeah, when the engine is back together and running, see what the top speed of this bike is. I've already had a new idea for this engine, but this engine is made with the technical understanding I had back for about a year ago or 2 years ago, and now I have already a new idea, but this is, of course, everything is billet and other cylinders. My biggest problem with this engine is it's basically 3 engines stuck together and it's very complicated. So my new design is just a split crankcase like you have in a RD 350, but that's maybe an idea for the future. Now I have to work that this engine is running properly, and then we see about the future, what's happened next. Now I am finished with the assembling of the engine and already put it in the frame again and put on the exhaust and all the other stuff. And once the engine was installed, I removed it again, and I've also removed one of the 2 springs that are mounted in here. I had 2 springs installed for the clutch, but the problem was that the clutch lever was extremely hard to pull. Before, the clutch lever was so hard to pull that it pushes my drive shaft out of the engine. It was extremely hard to pull. I think one heavy duty spring will also do the job. Also, the most powerful motorized bicycles with close to 20 horsepower also have just 1 spring installed, and the clutch is holding fine. And I've also noticed that my air filters are all damaged, and I've ordered new one. I found the perfect air filters on Amazon, because when you look closely in here, I have a very minimal amount of space. So the air filter have to be very short, and I found the perfect one. Also, this is my new desktop CNC milling machine. It's the Carvera Air from Makera. They contacted me and actually sent me this CNC machine. It's 4 axes, and you also have a laser adapter, and you can also laser cut things. More of this machine very soon. I have to build a desk for it because my workshop has a very limited amount of space, and I have to make a special desk for it and then put it in here where the vacuum is. Now back to the air filters. I found this velocity stacks on Amazon. This is a full kit with the air filters, and I think that's a very neat idea. You have those 2 mesh materials, and in the middle is the actual air filter, and this is holding together with this rubber, and this whole setup is very narrow, and this will fit into my bike very nicely. And also with the velocity stack, I have a little bit of extra power, because this increases the airflow that goes into the engine. So now I'm going to put this into my bike, and then I proper adjust the carburetors, and when all the carbs are jetted correctly, I think the next big thing is see what the top speed of this bike is. The aluminum pedal arm is not solid enough for this kind of setup, but that's not the big of a deal. I've already had new billet arms made out of steel, and they should last longer, or even doesn't break at all. As you saw, the bike is back together and running again. The crankshaft is working till now very well. Also with the changed material and minimal changed size of the crank halves. Also made a few improvements. This air filter setup is the best one I can ever find, because they are velocity stacks with mesh, and between here there's a sponge which is filtering out all of the dust. Also their depth is really nice because they are very short. As you see here, it just fits perfectly. If they were a centimeter longer, this wouldn't fit. The next improvement is, here is my homemade drive shaft, and at first I had 3 springs installed, but with 3 springs the clutch lever was extremely hard to pull. Then I run with 2 springs. In most videos you saw, in all videos I run with 2 clutch springs, but I had a problem. 2 clutch springs is too much pressure, because when I engage the clutch, the whole drive shaft is moving outwards, and that's a huge problem. So I just went with 1 heavy duty clutch and I preloaded to the maximum, and now it's holding fine. The clutch is a little bit slipping, but maybe I have to clean the clutch pads again and also adjust the flower nut. Also, I finished the front brake system. It turned out really crazy. One issue was that I have not enough clearance between the individual spokes and the brake caliper. So I had to shave down a little bit of the brake caliper with a file, so I had enough clearance. When you look closely, I have just a millimeter of clearance between the spokes and the brake caliper. The original design was a little bit different. I had much more clearance between the caliper and the spokes, but the problem is, once I had the brake discs installed and I braked really hard, the brake disc was hitting the dust cover. I had to mill down this adapter by about 3 mm, and now it is what it is. But it looks absolutely crazy. I think S1000 are our brake discs on a bicycle, basically. As you saw in the video, the carbs are a little bit too rich. Now I had to try a little bit with the air-fuel mixture. The pilot jet is 35 mm and the main jets are about 120 mm. I think that's a little bit rich, but I'm still tuning the carbs. These air filters makes a huge difference. Running these carbs without the air filters makes tuning the carbs correctly much more harder.